Once more, Karoline Leavitt did it. She targeted Kaitlan Collins directly this time. Furthermore, it wasn't behind the scenes. In front of her co-workers, she said it directly. Karoline came in full force during a recent White House press conference immediately following the signal message leak, hurling out journalists one by one who were obviously attempting to distort the facts and paint her and the administration in a negative light. You don't want to miss a second of this, I assure you. Let's get right to the video after you hit the subscribe button.
I want to follow up on something you just said, but since we have these messages released and you said that the president has now personally reviewed them, at the chat at one point, Pete Hegseth wrote 14-15 strike drones on target, and in all caps he said, "This is when the first bombs will definitely drop." Does the president feel that he was misled by his national security advisors, whoever it was that told him there was no classified information in there, now that he's seen these messages?
I've now been asked and answered this question 3 times by the both of you, and I've given you my answer. The president feels the same today as he did yesterday.
Okay,
Philip.
I might follow up on what you had just said.
No, go ahead, Philip.
Caitlin,
I'm not taking your follow-up. Philip,
I have a follow-up on something you just said, though, Caroline. That's
Caitlin, I'm not taking your follow-up. Philip, go.
Furthermore, Kaitlan has already posed the identical query. The growing annoyance was literally visible on Karoline's face. Her games were over. The growing annoyance was literally visible on Karoline's face. She was done playing games, but of course the rest of the press pool wasn't much better. These alleged journalists just kept asking ridiculous questions in an effort to get a soundbite or misrepresent something. Before we return to Kaitlan, let's examine what the others did. It is obviously desperate and biased.
Enlisted soldiers, sailors, and Marines would face consequences if they shared this type of information inadvertently with a reporter. Can you tell us more why the president is so willing to give Mike Waltz a mulligan here?
Again, I have now been asked and answered this same question using different language multiple times. If anybody has another question, there's a lot of different things going on in the world. We have tariffs possibly being implemented later today. The president is going to talk about that at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
And not because they are seeking answers. These wokies just keep asking the same question in an attempt to annoy, distract, and frighten the audience. It all boils down to making up a narrative that says we are in a crisis because they are out of control. However, here's what you should know. Though they may have discovered a new way to further their agenda, even the Democrats know in their hearts that none of this is genuine. It's just smoke and mirrors.
Well, I noticed this morning, out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day. I looked at them this morning. I looked at attack plans this morning. You know who does attack plans and war plans? Men like that admiral right there, Paparo for the Indo-Pacific, or Eric Kurilla, our general in CENTCOM. They do attack plans and war plans. And thank God we have those leaders who do it and do it well, and our enemies know it.
Anything that was classified that was being communicated at the time. I think that the Secretary of Defense has done a great job. If he wants to come and brief the committee, I think that'd be helpful. But I don't see where an investigation is needed at this time.
I definitely support an IG investigation on how all of these high-ranking members used a platform that is not appropriate for what they were discussing. Most of all, we need to know how someone who should not have been on the call was able to be added to it.
I still have confidence in the secretary. I think they have learned a valuable lesson with this, but we'll get.
They still try to force their outdated, faulty ideology on society in spite of all of this. Naturally, the mainstream media, which leans left, is celebrating because they have a new story to keep making up. The playbook is the same, the title is different, and Peter is simply being himself.
Caroline, if I can ask you very quickly about the information we've seen, just to set the predicate to all this. Has the president been briefed and physically seen he's seen all the details of the chat as printed by the Atlantic?
I just spoke to the president about it, yes.
Okay. Then let me ask you, if I can, very quickly. In the chat, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, details F-18s, Tomahawks, of some of the weapons that were used. He details the timing involved for this, all of which occurred 31 minutes before, as he says, F-18s would launch. The DoD manual details classified information as significant military plans, saying that is secret, that's classified. So what about, there are no methods, there are no sources, but that's not what determines what's classified. So what is it about what Pete Hegseth wrote that makes you say this is not classified?
Well, it's not just me saying that, Peter. It's the Secretary of Defense himself who is saying this as well. And he put out a very strong statement today, listing all of the things that were not included in that message that he sent to the group. And again, this message, there was no classified information transmitted. There were no war plans discussed. Why did the Atlantic downgrade their allegation about war plans to attack plans? They're now playing word games because they know this was sensationalist spin from a reporter who is well known for doing this. We have said all along no war plans were discussed, no classified material was sent. You have the Secretary of Defense saying that. You have the Director of the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI Director, all testifying to that under oath.
Just so you know, Karoline had a very simple reason for banning these jerks. They're not listening. Their purpose was not to report on the news. In order to further their own narrative, they came to disparage and slander her. They are now closely monitoring Peter as he prepares a plan while feigning concern for the American people. That's nothing. But let's continue.
There Americans can make the decision for themselves, but whether is the you said it's not war plans. Would you characterize these as military plans, military operation plans?
I would characterize this messaging thread as a policy discussion, a sensitive policy discussion, surely, amongst high-level cabinet officials and senior staff. And I'm so glad, Peter, that you said the American public can decide for themselves, because I think the American public should decide for themselves based on the outcome of this operation. And what happened in this operation? Terrorists that were allowed to run wild by the Biden administration were killed because of the direction and the determination of this president and his team. And this message also shows, this messaging thread also proved that President Trump has an incredibly dynamic team who is working incredibly hard, flying all over the world to secure world peace and to fix up the foreign policy crises that the previous administration left for this team to.
This is exactly what they're attempting to conceal, you see. They don't want anyone to know that they are discreetly cleaning out Hunter Biden's trash behind the scenes. Right now, Peter is trying to shift the conversation by making a big deal out of every little mistake the Trump administration makes. However, the best part follows. Karoline won't let that happen. She is shutting it down to keep the focus where it belongs.
We all in this room and around the country would agree that we're glad no American service members were harmed, and we're glad that the mission was a success. We'll stipulate that. But the president said that Pete Hegseth said none of this was classified. So given the president has seen it now, and given the president understands that significant military plans are deemed classified as secret, how does the president view none of this, which details times and weapons and more, as being not classified?
I've already been asked and answered this question. The president's thoughts on this remain the same today as they were yesterday,
On what basis,
as well as the Secretary of Defense. This question has been asked and answered. There was no classified material discussed. Jackie.
On what basis I was asked?
These wokies are trying to shift the narrative in their favor by continuously pushing the same scams on the Trump administration. Let's be truthful. In an effort to come up with a unique soundbite, a number of journalists have just asked the same question over and over again. If the previous press secretary were still alive, none of them would have the courage to pose such a question. But enough is enough. Check here how Karoline Leavitt ruined Kaitlan Collins' career when she asked why the timestamps were there if they weren't classified. Karoline's brutal and remarkable way of ending things.
Would defer you to the Secretary of Defense's statement he put out this morning. There were various reasons he listed, things that were not included in that messaging thread that were not classified. And again, going back to the American public, do you trust the Secretary of Defense, who was nominated for this role, voted by the United States Senate into this role, who has served in combat, honorably served our nation in uniform? Or do you trust Jeffrey Goldberg, who is a registered Democrat and an anti-Trump sensationalist reporter? This president and this national security team are putting our national security and the American people first. We are restoring American strength around the world, and the results of this operation speak for themselves.
Despite everything, Kaitlan Collins kept asking the same questions again and over. That was when Karoline Leavitt had had enough. She instantly threw Kaitlan out. Now, rumors are circulating that Kaitlan's press credentials have been revoked. And if so, it's actually what a lot of people have been anticipating for some time. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. We've got a lot more coming.